don't do that. Like, don't do that. What a bad thing to do. Slumping. I am afraid that the conclusion to this is gonna be something I didn't necessarily want to hear, but this is what I'm talking about, finally. I think I get it. I think I get it now. That I lied to you. I have lied to you. Alright, you know what? This is my third time filming this because I should be a pro at it. What I'm clearly not a pro of is filming it to begin with. First I filmed it months ago, then I clearly formatted my cards and I didn't save the footage. And second time I filmed it in slow motion with no sound, so fingers crossed this one actually sticks. As you'll know from the thumbnail and the title, I'm here to review and rank because I'm such an expert and so the right person to judge others on their art. I really am not. 10 cozy, or what we would class as cozy, manga. A long while back now, I've done a haul and I mentioned a certain manga and I said, oh, I would like to try more, would you recommend me some? And boy, did you recommend me some. You recommend me a lot. I actually have more of these. I've already ordered more of these, which is probably a mistake, but maybe not. If this does well, if you guys are interested, I'd be more than happy to do a second part of this, as well as one for more gory, sad, tragic, weird, unsettling manga, because that's actually what I normally maybe even prefer. I don't know what came over me. I was like, oh yeah, this, fun. I've selected 10 that were the most recommended. Thankfully, I've noticed that the footage was in shambles. Not too far in this, so I've only finished 2 of these. I have said goods right here, and what I've actually done is sorted them in the order that I predict, knowing very little about them, of how I will like them. And we're gonna read through and we're gonna sort them again whilst we read and see if that is accurate. So what I'm not gonna do is I'm not going to go one by one through these books and tell you what they are about. I will save that for when I actually read them so I know a bit more accurately. I'm a terrible judge of synopsis. I feel like synopsis in general are just not always the most accurate for the feel and everything. This is the original list, right? In the 10th spot, so least likely to like out of these, is Beyond Clouds. Mainly because I didn't mention something in the video when I asked for recommendations, that is normally I prefer stories that are a little bit more mature, whether that's themes or the actual age of the characters. I'm not saying that I can't enjoy middle grade stories or stories featuring kids. It just really depends on the content more so than the actual age. And this one seemed quite young, and hence I'm mostly apprehensive about this. And also is steampunk, which is not my favorite setting. So I've ranked it in number 10, still thinking that it could definitely surprise me. Any of these can. Number 9 was actually Seaside Strangers, only because, and listen, this was actually very hard to rank to begin with because they all sound great. And this could be amazing, but it was also sounding quite generic, and it didn't have that edge from the very, from the synopsis for me to put it higher, because everything else kind of had like a little something to go up in the list. But I guess we'll see. It could be beautiful. Number 8 is Delicious in Dungeon. This ranked number 8 because it obviously has a D&D type of cast and D&D themes, and we go in a dungeon, but it does focus on cooking, which I found a lot of cozy mangas do. And it can be a hit or miss. This could be hilarious, this could be a little try hard and cringe, so we don't know. So it's number 8, be excited to try that. Number 7, The Ancient Magus Bride. This one actually has very gothic-y, a little bit more creepy vibe to it, and normally I would have ranked it a bit higher. I was just a bit hesitant because the main girl looks quite young, and I think is quite young, and this mage guy doesn't look to be that young. And that sometimes just gives me an ick. You 5,000-year-old creature, yeah, you love that 15-year-old girl because you have so much in common. It's just a bit like, it's a choice. But the vibes and the design and everything is very promising. Number 6 is Zoom 100. It actually sounds really fun, and I think the comments mentioned that it is quite funny, which is what I gravitate when I'm looking for a cozy one. It either has to break my heart but still make me laugh, or make me laugh a lot. It's what I'm looking for, I'm not looking at just like a sweet little story that doesn't make me feel anything other than like cozy. That's not what I'm personally looking for. So this one seemed like it would be more chaotic. This one seemed like it might be quite funny, and it does have zombies, which is not my favorite thing, but I am a changed woman since The Last of Us, I guess. And it also has motorbikes, which again, not my go-to, but because of the premise of like haha and chaos, it is quite high. Now, number 5, mind you, is not something that is necessarily counting as cozy or is classed as cozy, but I did ask people and they said maybe, so we're including it here because it was on my TBR before and I just didn't get to it, and I really want to, and that is One Piece. I know also people said, you know, my friend Murphy has been going on and on about this for a while. I feel like it's about time that I read this and try it. This is about 3 volumes. For the sake of fairness, I will only read the first one just because I'm only reading the first volume of the rest of them, and I have been told that I have to give it a little bit more time to really get going, but we're only judging the first volumes at the very beginnings of the story, so I think for the sake of the experiment, I'm only gonna read the first one just now. I know it's obviously piratey, which again is not my go-to. However, it is probably the most hyped up and the biggest community online for a manga fandom, so I didn't want to put it too high to manage my own expectations somewhat, but I didn't want to put it too low because I know how much loved it is, and obviously it has to have something to garnish all that love and continue the hype for so long, and it's just so strong. The community is like so strong. So we're putting it in the middle, happy middle, number 5. The number 4 is actually our dining table, and I know very little of it, but something about the vibes and the presentation really reminded me of one of my favorite cozy mangas, and that's My Brother's Husband. You know, there's a kid, there's 2 guys, and it's just, and there's food, and I don't know, there's something about it. This could be completely wrong. You know, much lower, who knows? I guess we will in a bit. Going to the top 3 predictions. The first one is restart after coming back home. And it's all about, you know, going out in the real world and things not quite going as planned and reaching your, is it 30s or 25? You have to kind of like go back home, and obviously with all of that stigma attached that you go out and you didn't succeed, and there's pain, and there's 2 men connecting and starting a journey together, and it just sounds like it'll tick a lot of my boxes. That's number 3. Number 2 is actually a placeholder. This didn't make it into the top 10 this time. But that is A Man and His Cat. I genuinely know so very little about this, but it has a man and a piano and a cat. Just the vibes of it. It looks and it feels right. Do you know what I mean? But I could be wrong, because I genuinely know probably the least about that one. And number 1 is actually definitely not something I would have put into number 1 if it was only up to me. This right here was the absolute number 1 recommendation. The amount of comments that I got recommending I want to say Spy Family. I don't know if you're supposed to pronounce the X. Spy X Family? Not versus Family. But I think it is basically about a family of spies. I don't know, but I put it in here just fully trusting the process, thinking you might know my taste, thinking that, you know, you love it as much as well, hoping for the best. So, is obviously how the list is looking. Okay, so as I mentioned in my false start of this, what I've decided to do is to go onto a random number generator, so I completely eradicate any type of bias in picking what I start reading first and then like leaving things I'm not as excited maybe. I've decided to do it randomly, which I think was a great choice because it adds a little bit of excitement for myself as well. And so the first one that I got was actually number 10, and I'll insert the footage here. It's just mute because, again, it didn't film with sound. So I've already read Beyond the Clouds. So Beyond the Clouds is a very sweet story. It's a story about a boy who is an orphan, but he has a very beautifully found family. He gets basically taken in by these people, and this world has regular humans, I guess, then humans with like some animal features, and then full-on animals that kind of like act like or have the human abilities. So it's a beautiful world to begin with. The artwork was actually, I was about to say it was beautiful artwork, but it was kind of like in the middle. Sometimes it didn't feel as immersive as I thought it would. Felt a little bit rushed, which I feel bad about saying, but you know, is what it is. And this boy is so in love with reading, so I think that will resonate a lot with a lot of readers, which obviously reader's gonna read. So, and he finds this girl that falls from the sky, and winged people apparently are just super rare in this world, and so are very much kind of hunted, and she doesn't remember anything, and he's trying to cheer her up, and then obviously there's people coming after them, and he ends up going on an adventure because something happens and it needs to be done. So that's kind of the premise, but apart from that, it really didn't give me anything. I was honestly kind of bored reading this, and I feel quite bad because I understand what they were trying to do. It's definitely wholesome. I do think that this is targeted at a younger audience, and it feels like it. I think it would be super sweet to read with your kids, and I did then check, and it is marked as YA but also middle grade, so it probably does lean towards that. I didn't know there was a middle grade one. It looked like it, but sometimes manga you just don't know. You'll have very young characters and then I'm obviously not expecting super dark themes in a cozy manga genre, but still, there's, you know, a bit more substance. And there was substance here, don't get me wrong. I didn't feel like I was saturated with it afterwards. You know what I mean? Like, I read it and I was like, yeah, I read it. I would, if I had to give it stars, I would probably give it 2. It just didn't give me much. It was just alright, you know? Because this was the first one, I couldn't obviously put it above or below anything. So we left it at number 10 for now. Then I rolled it again and I got a 7, which was The Ancient Magus Bride. And I actually was very pleasantly surprised with this. You know, there was still the ickiness. The ickiness was there, but then one of the side characters kind of like jokingly commented on it, and I was like, good, so we are aware of this. We're aware of this, and we're poking fun of it. And the nature of the mage is actually very reassuring for my concerns, let's just say. I found it so wholesome, and the girl actually has quite a dark past. So this girl gets taken in, and she's, you know, had a very dark past and not much love in her life at all. And she's finally, you know, experiencing acceptance and learning to trust people and going on these little assignments with this mage. And she gets bought as a, you know, as a slave, but he says that she's going to be his apprentice. And it's a very known, well-known mage, very distinguished. He's known to never take apprentices, so it's like a big deal. And we go on these little adventures and we learn some heartening bits, and I really liked it. The art style I love, the atmosphere is beautiful. I was very pleasantly surprised by this. There was some substance, there was some sadness, there were some themes, but also lightness and jokes and humor, and is such a key for me. Humor is such a key. I wouldn't say that it was like, oh, you know, laughing out loud like throughout it. No, but there was light to it, and there were nice characters, like nice side characters, and interesting world with fae and spirits, and I will be continuing with this. I will not be continuing with Beyond the Clouds, but I will be continuing with this, and because these are the only 2 that we read, I'm definitely ranking this before Beyond the Clouds. So it's looking like this so far. It is going according to what I expected, but that is where we stop. So now you're up to date. If I had to rate this, it'd probably be a 4 or maybe even a 5. I don't know if it would be like a 5, but it would definitely be a strong 4, which is, you know, amazing. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna see what we're reading next. So random number generator. So it's already saying 6, but this just comes with a random one already. If we get a number that we had before, we just re-roll, but we'll see what we're reading next. A 9. We are reading Seaside Strangers next. I'm not overly excited about this, but I'm also like totally okay to go into it. I don't have strong expectations either way. As I said, this was quite like a neutral one in my mind. I just feel like I don't know much about it. So we're gonna fix that, and we're gonna start this, and hopefully this footage is actually fine because I don't want to go through this again as much as I love you. Let's do this. I've read Seaside Strangers, and honestly it took me way too long to do so. I've stopped like 5 times before I reached like here, and then read the remaining, or maybe like here, but read the remaining today because I was just like, let's just get this done. And honestly, throughout, like, there were a couple of times that I've actually considered DNFing. And it's a manga, so it shouldn't be very hard to get through. I actually have quite a lot of like icks and issues on this one. First of all, right, so from the very beginning I actually thought it's gonna be very beautiful. We start off with this boy not really getting along with who he's living with. It's never really actually clear. He goes to sit on this bench that he used to sit with his mother, but his mother is dead now, and it's all very sad and kind of beautiful. And another boy notices him, and that was the best part. and it all went downhill for me afterwards. So the first boy leaves for 3 years. At this point, they've only really had a conversation on a bench. Then after 3 years, it was supposed, like me, I was supposed to call Shun, who was the boy that stayed, and kind of like didn't, and then comes back, and this is all at the very beginning, so it's not really a spoiler at all. Comes back, and he's like, I came back, I love you, I'm moving in. And it's very whiplashy. I'm like, excuse me, so we're just supposed to believe that? Nowhere do I feel like in the story it was like shown to me like why I'm supposed to be rooting for them, why they like each other. Other than like Shun thought Mio was hot. It was so weird. And then throughout that we get this very odd pressure from one of them to have sex with the other one. And I'm like, that is just so not okay. Like, it's just like there's nothing good about what we just did. Like, with all the pressure and everything, like there was not even like a point of the story or conversation about it. It was just not like believable. I didn't feel the chemistry. I didn't care that much about the characters because I felt like it was very surface level. So I'm really sorry I didn't like this one either. And you know what? And obviously I'm having to put them in order. So far still this one is definitely better than the other two that I've read. But I actually would put this before this one. And I again was not a fan of this one, but at least it didn't make me go like, don't do that. Like, don't do that. What a bad thing to do. Like, what a stupid, mean thing to say. I guess the reason why I put this fairly low on the list, although not as low, is that I thought it's gonna have a little bit more of a story behind it. It really is just not much to it, but I did think that it was vague, and that's why I didn't put it higher, and I now can understand why it was vague, I guess. So it's not for me so I'm gonna put it in the third spot just now, but obviously it's gonna get hopefully much lower. But so far not having the best luck with these, but I have thoroughly enjoyed this one, so it's fine. And we did get lower numbers on our random generator. So speaking of, let's get the next one up. Ignore the 3 again, it just has one like randomly put there already. So let us generate. We already had 10, so we're not doing that. 3. Okay, we're back to 3. So what is at number 3? Not the one that I would maybe pick directly after. However, I am very excited for this because obviously I put it at number 3. My only worry slightly is that it's gonna be like similar to what I just read, but I'm hoping not, because I'm just very unhappy with the themes used there. It made what should have been like a first love coming out, maybe finding yourself story, and it was supposed to be like this beautiful like gay story, and it was, to me at least, in a way that I wouldn't want queer representation out there, but you know, anyway, I don't know. So, but this one is restart after coming back home. So I'll get back to you on that one. The artwork looks actually very cute and is a bit more clearer than the other one. Sometimes in this one I found that the bubbles actually were facing the incorrect way, and I'm sure that was like a stylistic choice on the boxes overlapping, but it actually made it quite confusing to read as well, which didn't help the flow, I guess. But I'm very excited for this. It looks like it's going to be adorable. It's not too like crammed in, so very excited to be reading this and hopefully get better luck with this. Fingers crossed, because yeah. Slightly terrified. Maybe this subgenre is not for me, but I'm not giving up yet. Only read 3 out of 10. Really should pick up pace, but honestly it was so hard. It was so hard to get back to that because I lost interest so quickly. At the beginning, again, it was very promising, but then very quickly stopped being so. So anyway, let's get back to that. Hello. It's many moons later, and I'm still going through this. And you know what? Still on this. It is definitely about a guy who didn't have as much luck after they left home, so they come back and kind of form a relationship or friendship with this other guy that they didn't really know that much when they were here. And we have some like family dynamics, but I'm kind of struggling. It's better than the other ones, but it's not holding my attention. So now I am slumping. First of all, and second of all, I did have like a book in between, but second of all, I'm worried that maybe I have misjudged, even though I had some very good luck with some other considerably cozy manga, namely I Hear the Sunspot and also My Brother's Husband. Those are my probably favorite if I remember all of them now and sort them in my head. But I'm wondering if actually me as a person, as a reader, more so likes the more grim side of manga. So slightly worried about this. Not only is it taking me so long, but maybe it's just luck, and the good stuff is still to come. So it's not like I'm not enjoying this, but I'm just so not invested. It's just taking me so long, but I'm currently sprinting with my Patreons. So I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna read, and we're gonna finish at least this today, and then hopefully maybe start something else. But oh my god, your girl's been just really sludging along. I finished it. And I'm actually very happy to say that the second half of this pulled through to me so much more. I actually did find it very cute and endearing. We focused way more about this guy being adopted and all the feelings that brings and all the walls that builds up. And we started getting a little bit of romance. And overall, I really liked the second half. It was a good time. There were still a couple of moments that I was a little bit like cringed out, but I finally got invested and I felt so much better about reading it and definitely less sloggy. So not a great one maybe, because the beginning I wasn't feeling it too much, but this is our current stack for placing it in, and I would say I really enjoyed it, the second half. I really did. So I still say that this was just more consistently good, so it will be behind that. However, it does beat Beyond Clouds and it does beat Seaside Stranger. It's currently in second spot. Not too shabby at all. So let me check what we're reading next. It's 11 o'clock, so it's probably not going to be done today, but I do want to at least try to start it because I still have like 35 minutes in the sprint, so that's all gonna happen. So as we know, the first one's already pre-generated, so we click 10. We already read that. I know that for a fact. Well, number 8 is obviously not something I put super high up. However, that's fine. But number 8 on our list was Delicious in Dungeon, which is your D&D but make it quirky type of adventure, which could be really good. But I was afraid to be too optimistic because it can be very mediocre, I guess, and there were some other things that were a bit more promising, but I've clearly already been wrong, so just who knows. Hello, finally finished Delicious in Dungeon, and it is about, you know, a group of people going into a dungeon together and deciding that they don't want to eat the dry rations, and instead they're gonna cook what's available, which is monsters. I say decided. It's very much a passion project of one person, and then this dwarf they meet later on. The dwarf is absolutely my favorite, and then there's a couple more guild members, I guess, that are a little bit more oh, maybe I'll just get out of the sun who are a little bit more, very understandably, apprehensive about it. I will say this by far is the most fun I had with the manga so far. However, because the chapters are kind of set according to the next meal they're gonna have, there are little adventures. I think the last one was my favorite, but overall I was like content after reading a couple and I didn't really want to have more. There are definitely good haha moments, but other than that I feel like I didn't really have much to come back to. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually slumping through this. I am afraid that the conclusion to this is gonna be something I didn't necessarily want to hear, but if I had to rank it, I probably would put it in the second place because the humor to me goes a long way and I still had a good time with it. I was expecting, maybe if you are expecting more like D&D references, you will not get them. I think this is very much focused on the food, although there are a couple of bits that I don't know if they meant it to be so suggestive, but I feel like it's so glaringly suggestive that I don't know how you would without. I would show it to you. I'm not even comfortable doing that. So that was an interesting little bit. So it was a good time. I don't know if this is a standalone. If it's not, there's no part of me that like needs to have another one. I'm glad I read it, but would I remember it super fondly, and did I get what I think the humor was there. It's just that I needed something extra. It wasn't enough for me to be like, yes, this is the one. But we'll see what else we've got. Really hoping for something like super good. So it's not gonna rank as low already as I thought it would. Not that I thought that it would, but you know what I mean. I had higher expectations for the other ones. So it's already kind of like doing all right in that front. And I do think it's a little bit more unique compared to the other ones that I've read so far. But we'll see if that continues or not. Let's see what we're reading next. Okay, so as you know, the first one don't count. 3. Did we have a 3? Oh my god, I'm only halfway through. Okay, so number 3 was Restart After Coming Home, so we have already read that, and it will, spoiler alert. Oh, actually, it still could be number 3. It is not focusing, okay. Did I change something? No, 7. We already read that. I should have just done it differently. 2. Man and His Cat. So for this one, I had a very, very high hopes until I've heard Cody talk about it, which is a bit unfortunate because she also had very high hopes, but apparently the cat is very cringe. So since then, I actually have, sorry, I'm cramping up, that's why I'm saying like this. Since then, I had lowered my expectations quite a bit. And frankly, I'm a little bit afraid of going into this, but I guess we'll just have to see. Oh my god, why is this going not my way at all? But let's see it, because it's still looking cute. It's about a man who finds or gets a cat, I don't know. And their relationship, I guess. Yeah, let's do it. It's on my Kindle though, so I'll have to read it on my phone. Oops. Let's get going. Really just a couple of pages in, but that's already so sad because this is not a spoiler. This is literally the couple of pages, but the cat is like in a shelter or a shop, but it's 1 year old and everyone just comes in and wants to get a kitten, and then it's like, oh my god, no one ever wants me kind of thing. And then a guy comes in and is like, give me this cat, and then I don't want to get returned if it's a gift, and it's just so hard, like retching. Already having emotions, so actually already better than some of the other mangas, so hey, maybe this is gonna be alright. Okay, but also high-key relatable how he finds shopping so enjoyable because it's with someone else in mind, and shopping for my cats is probably the most fun ever. Like, I love shopping for my cats, so also very relatable. However, and I don't know, maybe this is helping, but because I've been pre-warned that the cat uses meow instead of certain words, which is extremely infuriating, and I really wish they didn't do that because I think it would just been so much better. I am not far in, I'm just 12% in, so I'm just starting. It's already so hard to stomach, but maybe because I was pre-warned, maybe I can just repress it and read it as if it's written without that bit, and maybe then this is gonna be great. So actually still have quite hopes. Like, this is cuter already because it's so wholesome in a way, like, I don't know. Also, look, they bought them a cat bed. Well, I have finished A Man and His Cat. I got it on Kindle Unlimited, and then I realized it's just like a sample, even though it says a full version. It was not, so I had to buy it on Kindle, but that's fine. I actually liked it. I don't know whether it was because I feel like some of the elements that were missing from the other stories was there or what. Admittedly, the cat dialogue absolutely ruins it. I was somewhat skipping those bits because I was also pre-warned that it is the way that it is. Like, it's not just that it was using like meow and purr all the time instead of words. I think the fact that it was so inconsistent and somewhat random which words they were replacing, it was so jarring and so cringe. But when I skipped those bits and just like purposely just ignore that, I think it's such a sweet story. It's all about, you know, separation anxiety and people choosing beauty and cuteness over, you know, adult cats when they're buying or adopting. There's also themes of grief and loss and finding a new joy and codependence a little bit and friendship. Because there's side characters as well, which I found quite endearing. They just all seem to have a little bit more of a separate life off the page in comparison to some of the other manga that I read. So I don't know if it's because it follows those or because by itself it would be fine. There's no way for me to tell, but I think in comparison to the ones that I have read, I'm actually quite like impressed by it. So this is my stack, and because I don't have it physically, I'm using this as a placement for it. So this one's a little bit hard for me to rank because I think the Ancient Magus Bride is still number one. But I don't know whether the cat was actually better than Delicious Dungeon. I definitely got through it much quicker. So I think I have to put it there because clearly the intrigue was there. I think it was a bit more balanced because there were definitely a lot of, and obviously as a cat owner, there's a lot of like just kind of very stereotypical, but still quite like endearing moments of, you know, just the cats being cats. This is definitely about a skittish cat. It's not so much about a, like an asshole cat. So there's not any sass. It's more like whimpering and feeling like you're being left, and it's sad, but the cat dialogue does really ruin it, but I think still in comparison it just offered a bit more of a story and a bit more of a balance. So somehow unbelievably it's currently at number 2 after the Ancient Magus Bride. This is a plot twist in my mind, even though I did rank it high, but after hearing and seeing some snippets of like those meow things, I can't explain to you how painful it is. It's so painful, it's so bad. And still, it was better. But so, you know, we still have a lot of places to go from here. So hopefully we have some other good choices. So let's get to it. I think instead of putting it through number 10, I think I'm just gonna put it as random generator out of 4 because otherwise we just keep clicking and clicking. So I've just reset it and 2. So it is our dining table, which I'm slightly terrified because I think a lot of the manga so far that had a lot of those, every time I pick this up, I'm kind of hoping for my brother's husband type of vibes, which I adored. So far, Restart after coming back home and the Seaside Strangers, they all just have a lot of focus on like day-to-day casual stuff and a lot of eating scenes, which is fine, but I need something in between. And if there's not much story, or if there's not much depth that's believable in the characters, I will get bored. And that's, I think, what's been happening. So I'm worried that this is gonna be of the same kind of caliber, but it also could just be amazing. Like, I guess we'll see. I'm just a little bit cautious because obviously Delicious in Dungeon was also very food-based, and I understand why cozy manga would be food-based because food is a massive comfort. Can't believe I'll say it, but it's just too much. And see, like, we had food scenes in Ancient Magus Bride as well, but those just felt a bit more balanced because we also had other stuff going on. So I guess we'll see, but this is the next read, and cautiously optimistic. Actually, I'm not optimistic, I'm just cautious at this point, but I'm very ready to be surprised. I'm really hoping that you can hear me okay, because I am sat on the balcony, but this is what I'm fucking talking about. Finally, I found something so good. I'm so happy with this one. Oh my god. This is what I was talking about. This is my husband's brother level of beautiful, cozy read where it just like gives you everything, a little bit of everything. It's so beautiful. It's such a touching story about insecurities and found family and relationships, and it's just like, it's so simple yet so beautiful, and the characters, most importantly, the characters felt real and alive. That is obviously very important, and I feel like this one just did it so much better than the other ones, and I think I'm gonna put it in the first place, even though it's very difficult to compare it to the other one. But yeah, the story is about this guy who finds this guy, and well, this guy kind of finds this guy in the park, and the brother was actually like, I'm not the biggest fan of like kid characters, but this one is probably my favorite. Just the energy it brought to the story, the joy that was really needed to counteract the gloomier aspects, which I think is just allowed it to have this balance that a lot of the other ones lacked. It was just so much livelier than the other ones. even though we still tackled the sad moments and was crying, and I honestly teared up a couple of times. I didn't cry, but I was like in my feelings a little bit, which is nice. And even though there was a lot of food stuff, this is how you do it. This is, I think, for me, how you do it. But yeah, the kid comes over to this guy and starts like eating his food, and then the rest is history. And beautiful. We only have 3 left, so I'm about to go and pick the next one. I'll just put it up to 3. The most awkward angle possible. Okay, so 3. So we're gonna go and read this one next. I know this has like zombies and way more action, which is probably gonna be a nice change of pace. Are you sniffing? You stinky? Okay, so I've just finished Zoom 100. The first thing I'm gonna say about this is that I think you can't technically class this as a cozy manga in any way, shape, or form. However, it does have a bit of a casual, funny kind of energy to it. It's honestly hilarious because it's all about... Have you ever like watched, I don't know, Walking Dead or The Last of Us, and you're like, yeah, but at least I wouldn't have to go to work. It's basically, I feel like the creators felt that and they were like, let's make that happen in a manga, and that's what they did. It's crass, it's immature in places. The main character, a quite horny and live in a moment guy, and we have another character that's gonna, I'm assuming, be introduced later in the series, who's way more strategic, who's a girl, and the guy is very much like live every day type of person. And so he makes a list of 100 things he wants to do before he becomes a zombie, because there's a zombie apocalypse happening. And I'm assuming the series is possibly gonna go through that list whilst also coming back to meet the girl, because they did have a slight encounter. And I thoroughly enjoyed this. Honestly, it's very hard to rank against the other ones because, again, it isn't cozy. It's very much like action, poking fun of society, having the whole sentiment of work doesn't let you live and exploits you, and you're working for someone else for the whole life only to realize you've not done anything for yourself. It's very sad in that respect, and it's very kind of relatable. Definitely is crass in places, but I was really vibing with this one. But it's very hard to rank with the next ones, because how do you compare something like that to our dining table? It's a completely different vibe. However, I will say I am actually really excited to continue with this. It's definitely gonna be something I'm gonna get and collect probably, unless it goes downhill. But like, it's such a good time. It's such a good time. Honestly, it's a new favorite, I think. It's a very, very different... Like, this one is, was a bit sad and made me tear up, and this one was just, like, funny and full of action and commentary on how working sucks. I like that. So I would say these are very much, like, tied, but if I had to pick one, just because this is also not a standalone, I would probably go for this. Although standalones obviously are also nice, but... yeah, these are very hard to compare, very, very different lanes. I think I have to put it at number 1, and we only have 2 left. And I'm actually so excited because I'm thinking if, we just had a very kind of like poor luck at the beginning. Hello, what do you think? Because I obviously had a very rough time with the manga before. Now I'm flying through it, which it literally took me like a month to get through the other ones because I just kept putting it down. But I literally just have 2 options, so we're just gonna put 1 out of 2 and see what we get. 2. So we are starting One Piece Volume 1. It's finally happening, and then the book that is predicted to be the best just happens to be the last one we read, which hopefully means we come out with a bang. We'll see if it's better than Zoom 100. But obviously this one is a very, very beloved one, so I'm excited. I'm a little bit terrified, but I will let you know my thoughts, and we'll see what the verdict is. Har har. I've just finished reading One Piece, and you know what? I think I get it. It's really enjoyable. It's very silly, goofy, our main character. So if you didn't know what One Piece was actually about, you'd be just like me, because I've heard a lot about it, but never properly what it is about. So One Piece is about a silly, goofy kid that has a silly, goofy dream of massive proportions. He wants to be the king of the pirates. The previous king of the pirates, I guess. I don't know if this is factual, don't quote me on this, but a pirate of the past put this massive loot his treasure called One Piece, hence the name, hello, in a secret location. And now every pirate under the sun, which is like, this is an era of pirates galore, is trying to find and get to that treasure. And this kid meets other pirates in his town when he's living there as a little boy that no one wants to take onto his ship because he's a little boy. And after an encounter, he eats this fruit that the pirates have hold, and he basically is an elastic woman from Incredibles because he can stretch and has all of these. Basically, he's a rubber man. He is a rubber man. We start a story 10 years after that point when he sets out to just basically recruit a crew, but he is very optimistic to a fault and just really doesn't plan for things, and he has the kind of mentality of things will just work out and it is what it is, in a very fun way. Like, he's hilariously unaware of all of the deadly things around him and the significance of the situations he puts himself in, and it's just delightful. I'm actually having such a great time. I will absolutely be continuing. I know again that this and that, they cannot be classed as cozy manga, but I do think they can definitely be, in a weird way, classed as a comfort manga. So maybe I will put this as a comfort manga instead. It's actually really hard for me to rank these two because, again, this one just gave me such a good laugh with, there was the part where all the zombies become a thing. And instead of being afraid, this guy literally says, "I'm free." And look at the setting. It is very much commentary, I feel. And then this is just, I get it. I think I get it. I think I get it now. I think I get it. I don't know where to put it. It's definitely either number 1 or 2 after this one. But I'm so hyped for both of them. I'm actually getting so incredibly happy for finding manga I want to continue, getting on these adventures, getting the laughs, getting the feelings. I can understand this is gonna get feelium parts, I'm pretty sure. This felt maybe a bit more masterful. I think I'm gonna put it just above Zoom 100, but Zoom 100 had a very relatable work thing, so I don't know, but I think I'm gonna put this because the cast felt more rounded. I think it had a lot of characters, whilst Zoom 100 so far really just had one with a possibility of a second one. So I think for that in the 250 pages, it already made me care for quite a few characters. I'm hoping we can revisit. I think it's Kobo. I am actually very excited to continue to know Zolo, and is it Luffy? I don't know if you pronounce that correctly. No, I get it. Okay. And so this experiment I was really worried, but it's been going much better. So the very last one that we have on our list is Spy Family. So let's get this concluded and see if this is the best one out of those. But it's gonna be a very hard fight. This has to be extremely good, I think, to rank now in number 1, but it can feasibly rank at number 3 or 4, depending. Or it could be completely not my cup of tea and a disappointment again. Okay, I have finished the very last one for this project. I feel like it's gone forever, and then I just flew through the second half of it, but it was really good. So the story is a little bit like, I feel like, was it Mr. and Mrs. Smith? Or is it The Smiths? Or whatever that movie is. I've never actually seen it with the Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt, not Smith, wow. Where both of the characters are with their own secrets and their own spies. So similarly here we have this guy, codenamed Twilight, who is a spy, and then we have a woman who is an assassin, and we have a girl who can read minds, and he adopts the girl. She's adorable. She's actually the one thing, you know what, I've learned something about myself here, that I lied to you. I have lied to you. You know, at the beginning when I was like, oh, I don't really like the kids, I've learned that I actually really appreciate the kids in manga. They just add this beauty to the story, and they're adorable, and they're one of my favorite characters from these, maybe because the story is with adults and the kids are there, but I don't know anymore because I'm confused. Maybe I do actually like kids and stories. So we've learned that, and we have a mission that we have to complete, and he needs to marry and have a daughter or a son, a kid basically, for that mission to go ahead. And it's just, oh, it's delightful. I will definitely be continuing, so I can see why this was a number one suggested comfort. I'm gonna just refer it as comfort manga. There are some side characters I'm already quite attached, and the whole story is just so, you know, twists and turns, but it's also family dynamic. It's also, you know, just a person who's not used to having a family, and they're all navigating each other, because the girl is also from, you know, an orphanage, and she's been already quote unquote returned 4 times, and it's very heartbreaking. None of them know how to act in this scenario, where they're very good professionals, well, the 2 adults in their own fields, but they're definitely not domestic, let's say. So it's just great. I really enjoyed it, and that takes me to the final ranking, and this is where it gets a little bit hard, because I really like this, I really like this, and I really like this as well as this. So where do I, oh, and this. So it's like, I'd say it's like 50-50. It genuinely is like split in the middle of which ones I liked and which ones I didn't. But where do I put Spy Family? I think the easiest way for me to judge is whether or not I have already maybe ordered some on my Kindle. Manga, I love manga, and I think I probably will buy some volumes that I want to collect. However, they just take so much space. So I'm a little bit hesitant. I think I'm gonna go further and see which one like really takes my heart. I think it is between these two for number 1 spot. And it's really hard. They're so different. I really don't know. I think I have to go with this just because I genuinely have already gotten more on my Kindle, and I haven't for this yet, but I will. But I think just for the sake of the fact that I already went and, you know, took that step for this one. So I think One Piece is officially the winner of our lineup, but let me just walk you through the rest of it. Mind you, the Mages of the Library is a placeholder for Man and His Cat, because again, I didn't have that physically. But this is, oh, this is difficult is what this is the final lineup of the experiment. So, Seaside Strangers, I genuinely don't recommend to anyone, I feel. I have some alternative ones that I would recommend if you're looking for something like Seaside Strangers. I maybe would say I Hear the Sunspot. That one is alongside this, but much better. Beyond the Clouds, I think, would be great for younger readers, for those who want to explore magical lands. This did come in the 9th place for me because I just didn't get as much out of it, but I think if you have a younger readership or you want to read it with your kids or nephews or whatever children are in your life, I think this could be a good one. It was just not for me, but there's nothing particularly wrong with that one. In number 7 is Restart After Coming Back Home. It was fine in the second half, but the first half gave me also very little, and I do think that it was clunkier than some other ones. But again, nothing particularly wrong with that one, but I do think that it slumped me quite a bit. Delicious in Dungeon is a really nice, low-key adventure where we're talking about food a lot and just having like silly goofy time, but I don't think that there was a much of a plot otherwise, and I think because of that it fell a little bit short. I would still probably recommend it for people who do specifically look for something like this, mainly for, you know, good silly goofy vibes, but otherwise I wouldn't put it like as a highly recommend, but I don't think that it is a bad pick if you're in for something like that. And A Man and His Cat, I like the sentiment behind it. I can stand behind the cat dialogue, though I do think that it ruined the whole thing. I do think it would have been brilliant if not for that. I really did appreciate the whole adopting the quote-unquote ugly cat, the old cat, the one that no one needs, the one that no one wants. For a man who is lost in his grief and doesn't see any joy in coming back home, it was beautiful, but other than that, I think they really have done this manga dirty with the animal dialogue, making it so cringy. So I think that was a bit of a missed opportunity. It could just be me though. It might not bother you, and I do think that I was prepared a little bit for it because I was warned. So maybe you will also be just cautious that that's the thing, and maybe it's not going to bother you. The Ancient Magus Bride, I actually really did enjoy it. So this is where we become in the first half of the top 5 are the ones that I would recommend to people. Much easier than the second half, which is a nice split. The Ancient Magus Bride had really good humor in spots, but we also went on little adventures, and we have beautiful art. I just love how the characters are depicted. There was some like icky parts, but they were kind of addressed as well, so I don't mind that. But I think I will be continuing, but I don't know how soon. But when I was reading this at the beginning, obviously this was the best one for a while, so I thought this will be the one that I'm gonna be grabbing, but now I have other ones that I want to go to first. So this actually took a backseat quite a bit, but I would still recommend it. Our Dining Table is a standalone for what I know, and I would absolutely recommend this over the Restart After Coming Back Home or the Seaside Strangers. This is to me on part with My Brother's Husband and I Hear the Sunspot, which were the two ones that I had in mind going into this experiment. I think this is also on a very similar line. So if you like this kind of slice of life, found family, found romance, queer manga, I think you would really enjoy this. This would be the one that would fit that cozy manga the best, I think, of the ones that are left over. And I think it's also maybe a little bit telling that my top 3 are ones that wouldn't necessarily fit in your stereotypical cozy one. Comfort, yes. Cozy, not so much, especially for this. So if we're learning anything, is that maybe I just naturally lean towards that more, and that's what I would enjoy, which is a good thing to know for me going forward. Obviously, there's definitely times where this type of manga is something that I'm craving, but I think overall I've learned that I just need a little bit more adventure in my manga, which is, you know, a result. We know this now. So coming to top 3, those were, as you know, very close. This was very hard to rank. And the third place is Zoom 100. I wouldn't maybe recommend this to everyone because I do think it's probably not going to be everyone's type of thing. If you don't mind crude humor, I think you would also really enjoy it though. And I think it is going to be a very fun one to continue. Spy Family obviously just talked about. I'd recommend both of these to pretty much everyone that has a similar-ish taste to me. The Spy Family was just really a good time, and then One Piece is just, it has so much heart in it, and I've only read the first volume, which is, you know, like a third of this. It was, I think, maybe a little bit lengthier than the other ones still, but in such a short time, I fell in love with the cast already, and I am so excited for the adventures to come. And it's the best way I can tell what this feels like is just hearty. Like, it's funny, it's expressive, it's very expressive, but it also has just so much charm to it. And I'm so excited to have found these are definitely these two in particular, so I think I did rank them correctly, and then this is something I'm going to 100% continue, and they are my absolute top choices of this experiment. So let me know if there's any other manga on maybe adventurous type of situation you would recommend. I think the next one I would want to try is type of Junji Ito type of. I do have a couple of their works that I want to try, so actually I'm gonna ask for those recommendations. If you have something a bit more grim, a little bit more messed up, a little bit more psychological and trippy, leave those recommendations down below because I would love to do another part of this. Probably, as I said, I already have these on my Kindle and I am going away for a week, so I probably will be dipping my toes further into the story there. I know there's a lot of people already discussing One Piece, but if you would like my thoughts a little bit more in depth, also let me know. I'm not really sure I would have like enough to say, but I could try. And I would love to talk to you about it as well, so maybe that's gonna happen, maybe not, I don't know. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this was somewhat informative, and if you were looking for a recommendation, hopefully this was also useful. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Stay awesome, stay kind, and I will see you in the next one. Bye! Knee-jerk reaction is fight or flight.
First sign of color, I run and hide. But you came like rain on a summer